Echoes of the Old Harbor. Prologue. The rain in Havana wasn't just rain. It was a shroud, soaked in salt and memories, that enveloped the city like a ghost from the past. It whispered of revolutions, love, betrayal, and hopes that had long since disappeared. And I, Eliana Rodriguez, just wanted to find answers to the questions that had tormented me all my life. Who was my grandfather, and why did he disappear? Part 1: Sand and Sorrow. I returned to Havana after 10 years in New York to work as an antique dealer. My grandmother, Isabel, my only remaining relative, lived in the old house on Calle Santa Teresa, where I spent my childhood. The house was filled with the smell of lavender, tobacco, and something else, something ancient and mysterious. Isabel was a woman with sea-green eyes and hands stained with time. She spoke little, but her silence was filled with history. She told me about her grandfather, Raúl Rodriguez, a famous artist who suddenly disappeared in 1978, leaving behind only a few unfinished paintings and a cryptic note. Look for an echo. I began to investigate. My search led me to old archives, abandoned artists' studios, local legends, and, of course, to people who remembered Raúl. In Havana, a city of contrasts, where luxury coexists with poverty and beauty is hidden under a layer of dust of time, I met many characters. Geronimo, an old fisherman who claimed to have seen Raúl's grandfather the last time he went to sea. He spoke of a strange ship and that his grandfather was looking for the light. Dr. Alvarez, a doctor who was a friend of the Rodriguez family. He told me about the strange symptoms Raúl had experienced in the last months of his life. Nightmares, hallucinations, and inexplicable anxiety. Maria Solis, a young woman who worked at the El Paraíso Café, where Raúl's grandfather often went. She remembered him as a man with a kind heart and a talent for painting portraits. As I delved deeper into Raúl's story, I discovered more and more contradictions and mysteries. Not only was he a talented artist, but he was also a man connected to secret societies, revolutionary movements, and perhaps even American intelligence. Part 2: The Shadow of the Past. My search led me to an abandoned lighthouse on the outskirts of Havana. I learned that Raúl often visited this lighthouse, where he spent his days and nights painting landscapes and meditating. Inside the lighthouse, I discovered a secret room in which his unfinished paintings, diaries, and old maps were kept. Raúl's journals contained many references to Echo, a mysterious place he believed to be the key to understanding the world. He believed that this place had great power and could change a person's life. The maps pointed to several places in and around Havana where he believed Echo could be found. I began to travel to these places, following my grandfather's clues. I visited ancient churches, abandoned mines, mysterious caves, and even sugarcane plantations where slaves once worked. In each place, I found new fragments of Raúl's story, new mysteries, and new dangers. I encountered people who wanted to prevent me from revealing the truth about my grandfather. They were connected to a powerful organization that controlled many aspects of life in Havana. It turns out that Raúl was not just an artist. He had witnessed something very important, and this organization wanted him to remain silent forever. Part 3: Answers and Destruction. I eventually found Echo, a small cave in the mountains near Havana. In this cave I found an ancient artifact, a crystal that emitted a strange energy. When I touched the crystal, I saw a vision. Raúl, young and full of life, standing in this cave and trying to understand the nature of this crystal. I realized that Echo is not just a place, but a state of consciousness. It is the ability to see the world as it really is, without prejudices and illusions. Raúl sought this experience to find the meaning of his life and understand his role in the world. I also learned the truth about his disappearance. Raúl was killed by members of the organization who wanted to protect their secret. They used him as a pawn in their game, and when he became too close to the truth, they destroyed him. Epilogue. I returned to Havana and buried the ashes of Raúl's grandfather in the Santa Teresa cemetery. I also uncovered the truth about his death and the organization that tried to cover it up. It was a long and dangerous journey, but I don't regret a single day. I learned that life is not only about finding answers, but also accepting that some mysteries will always remain unsolved. But most importantly, I learned that love and memory can overcome even the darkest times. And the echo of Grandfather Raoul will always resonate in my heart. Part 2. The Shadow of the Past continued. After discovering the secret room in the lighthouse and starting to search for the echo, I encountered Geronimo, an old fisherman. He was not just a source of information. He seemed knowledgeable, as if he held echoes within himself. One night, as we sat on the beach sipping rum, he said, "Raoul wasn't just looking for an echo, Eliana. He was looking for a key." "A key to what?" I asked, feeling the tension rising. Geronimo pointed to the old lighthouse, his voice growing quieter, as if he were speaking to the wind. "The key to the harbor, to its true history. They say that at the base of the lighthouse lies an ancient symbol, a sign that points the way to treasure and knowledge." It was crazy. I had always thought of Raoul as an artist fascinated by mysticism, not an agent of secret societies. But Geronimo was too convincing. I decided to test his words. Together with Dr. Alvarez, who had suddenly shown an interest in my investigation, perhaps he felt guilty for not being able to help Raoul, we began to study the history of the lighthouse. We discovered that the lighthouse was built on the site of an ancient Carib Indian settlement. The Indians believed that this hill was a sacred place connected to the spirits of their ancestors. Our search attracted the attention of the Gray Faces, a group of people who worked for the organization that controlled Havana. They were cruel and ruthless, and they did not want anyone to know the truth about Raoul and his quest. One of their agents, a young man named Marcos, began to follow me. He was handsome and dangerous, with cold gray eyes that seemed bottomless. New line: the enigma of Marcos. I began to suspect that Marcos was more than just a mercenary. There was something strange in his behavior, as if he were connected to Raoul somehow. I tried to establish contact with him, but he always avoided me or gave evasive answers. One night, I saw Marcos near Isabel's house. He was looking at the house, as if he was looking for something. I followed him and discovered that he was trying to get into a secret room in the lighthouse. I managed to stop him, but this only increased my suspicions. I soon learned that Marcos was the son of one of the artists who worked with Raoul in the 1970s. He was a child when Raoul's grandfather disappeared, and he never knew about his search. But why was he so fascinated by the lighthouse? Isabel's development. Isabel, watching my search, became more open. She told me about her youth, about how she met Raoul in the Café El Paraíso, about his talent and his strange dreams. She confessed that she always felt that her grandfather was hiding some important secret from her. Raoul was a man who saw the world differently, she once told me. He believed that in every object, in every picture, in every sound you could find an echo of the past. New twist. I found an old photo of Raoul taken in 1978. In the photo, he was holding a strange amulet, a small stone with a symbol engraved on it, similar to the sign I saw on the base of the lighthouse. It was a key. Prologue additional. The rain in Havana continued to whisper its stories. But now I knew that there was more to these stories than just the past. This was the truth about Raoul, about his search, and about who wanted to destroy him. And I was going to reveal this truth, even if it cost me my life. Part 2. Shadow of the Past continued. After finding the amulet and the connection between it and the ancient symbol, it became clear that Raoul was not just a seeker. He was at the crossroads of several powerful forces. The organization Gray Faces, led by a ruthless agent named Victor Sanchez, was turning up the pressure. They no longer limited themselves to spying on Eliana. They began to threaten Isabel directly. Victor Sanchez and his methods. Victor was a man from the past, battle-hardened and devoid of any morals. He believed that the Gray Faces were the guarantee of order and stability in Havana, and he was not going to let anyone destroy that order. His methods were brutal and effective. Intimidation, blackmail, violence. One night, as Eliana was returning home from her job at an antique store, she was surrounded by a group of gray faces. They demanded that she stop searching for Raúl and destroy everything connected to him. Victor Sanchez stepped forward, a tall, strong man with piercing eyes and a scar running across his cheek. "You are playing with fire, Ms. Rodriguez," he said, his voice low and menacing. "Don't try to understand what you're not meant to understand." Raúl Rodriguez disappeared for one simple reason. He found too much. Eliana refused to comply. She knew that if she gave in, the truth about Raúl would remain buried forever. In the ensuing struggle, Dr. Alvarez, who had suddenly appeared on the scene, tried to protect Eliana, but was badly wounded. Isabel and her knowledge. Victor realized that Isabel was the key to information about Raúl. He came to her home, threatening her and her property. But Isabel was not afraid. She was a woman of strong character and a deep understanding of the history of Havana. "Raúl was a man of honor," she told Victor, looking him straight in the eye. "He sought the truth, not wealth or power. And I will help you find it." Isabel told Victor about a secret place where Raúl often spent time. The old colony, located on the other side of the island. She knew that it contained important information that could help Eliana uncover the truth about her grandfather. New twist: the hidden network. As Eliana investigated, she discovered that the Gray Faces didn't just control Havana. They were part of a global network of secret organizations dedicated to finding and controlling ancient artifacts and knowledge. It turned out that Raúl wasn't the only one looking for the echo. Victor steps up. Victor Sanchez realized that Eliana was becoming too dangerous. He ordered his men to increase surveillance and stalk her. He also began using Marcos, the son of an artist from the 1970s, as his main informant. Marcos became a constant enemy for her, always showing up where she was, always ready to pass information to Victor. Prologue Edition. The rain in Havana grew heavier. It seemed not just water, but a stream of anger and despair. Eliana knew she had to act fast before the Gray Faces destroyed her and everything she had learned. She knew she needed help, and she would find it in the most unlikely of places. Part 2. The shadow of the past continued. Eliana continued to pursue the Gray Faces, but her every move was watched by Marcos. He was omnipresent like a shadow, appearing out of nowhere and disappearing into the crowd. At first, Eliana felt nothing but contempt for him. He was a tool in Victor's hands, an enemy who was trying to stop her. But the more she learned about him, the more complex her attitude became. First encounters. One night, as Eliana was trying to infiltrate the colony, Marcos appeared right in front of her. He didn't attack her. He simply stood there, silently watching her. "You're wasting your time," he said, his voice quiet and even. "Raúl Rodriguez is dead. There's no point in looking for him." Eliana didn't believe him. She knew Raúl was alive, at least in some way, and she was determined to find him. "Why are you following me?" she asked Marcos. "What do you want?" "I have to protect my family," he replied, his eyes momentarily filled with pain. "My father worked with Raúl in the 1970s. He was killed by the Gray Faces for knowing too much. An unexpected alliance." Eliana realized that Marcos wasn't just an enemy. He was a victim. She decided to take a chance and make contact. They began meeting secretly, in hidden corners of Havana. Old cafes, abandoned beaches, dilapidated houses. Revealing the past. Marcos told Eliana about his father, his talent as an artist, and how he became suspicious of the Gray Faces. He also told her about a secret project Raúl had been working on in the 1970s. A project that could change the world. "Raúl wasn't just looking for an artifact," Marcos once said. "He was looking for knowledge. Knowledge of how to use the energy of ancient civilizations to create a new world." Emotional connection. As Eliana learned more about Marcos and his past, she began to develop feelings for him that she couldn't explain. He was handsome, smart, brave, and he was the only person who understood her. Rising tension. Victor Sanchez noticed that Eliana and Marcos had become allies. He realized that they were a threat to him. He began to use Marcos against Eliana, trying to force him to betray her. "You think you can change," Victor once said to Marcos. "You think you can save Raul? You're wrong. All you can do is die." New twist. Eliana discovered that Marcos was not only the son of the artist who worked with Raul, but also a descendant of an ancient line that guarded the knowledge of the echo. His family had kept the secret for centuries, passing it down from generation to generation. Prologue additional. The rain in Havana continued to fall heavily. Eliana and Marcos stood together on a deserted beach, looking out at the raging sea. They were allies against a common enemy, but their relationship was complicated and unpredictable. "I don't know what will happen next," Eliana told Marcos. "But I know one thing, we must fight together." Blurring the lines. The first meetings between Eliana and Marcos were full of tension, mistrust, and mutual contempt. But gradually, through common dangers and their joint search for the truth about Raul, the boundaries between them began to blur. They discovered a surprising similarity in themselves. Both were smart, determined, ready to risk their lives for what they believed in. Unexpected moments of closeness. One rainy evening, when they were hiding from pursuers in an old cafe, Eliana accidentally touched Marcos with her hand when he was trying to give her a map of the colony. At that moment, their eyes met, and something new, unspoken, flashed in each other's eyes. It was the first sincere contact, which seemed to awaken a dormant passion. Later, during one of their dangerous sorties, they found themselves surrounded by gray faces. Marcos rushed to protect Eliana, distracting the enemies, and she, in turn, used her knowledge of the city and hand-to-hand combat skills to help him. At that moment, as they stood next to each other, breathing heavily, their bodies touching, and they felt a surge of uncontrollable passion. Conversations at night. Gradually, their conversations became more personal, more frank. They shared their fears, dreams, memories of the past. Eliana learned that Marcos was lonely and unhappy. He felt lost in life, not knowing who he really was. Marcos saw in Eliana's strength, independence, and faith in justice, qualities that he had long lost. "You make me feel alive again," Eliana once confessed to Marcos. "I don't know what's happening to me, but I can't ignore you anymore." First kiss. One evening, as they sat on the beach under the stars, Marcos took Eliana's hand and looked into her eyes. He said quietly. "I want to be with you." Eliana looked back at him, and her heart began to beat wildly. She leaned toward him and they kissed. It was a tender, passionate kiss that symbolized the beginning of their love. A love born of danger and trust, betrayal and doubt. However, their relationship was marred by constant fear and mistrust. Victor Sanchez had no intention of allowing them to get closer. He continued to use Marcos against Eliana, trying to make him hate her. "Do you think you can love me?" he asked Marcos. "Do you think I can't understand you? You're just a tool, Miss Rodriguez. And you will soon realize that your love is an illusion." Doubt and suspicion began to eat away at their relationship. Eliana was afraid that Marcos was betraying her, and Marcos was afraid that Eliana would not be able to understand him. A new level of intimacy. Despite all the difficulties, their love grew stronger. They learned to trust each other despite the danger. They became two people who found in each other what they had been missing for so long: love and support. "I know that we can be killed," Eliana told Marcos one night, "but I am ready to risk everything for you." "And I am ready to risk everything for you," Marcos answered, hugging her. "We will fight together, and we will win." The test of the colony. The first serious test for Eliana and Marcos was the defense of the colony, the place where they planned to uncover the secret of Raul's project. Victor Sanchez and his men surrounded the colony, using all available resources: mercenaries, secret service, even part of the police. Marcos, with his knowledge of the area and the skills he received from his father, organized the defense. Eliana, using her hand-to-hand combat skills and knowledge of the weak points in the colony's structure, helped him. They fought shoulder to shoulder, protecting each other, demonstrating their willingness to do anything for love. In one of the most dangerous moments, when Marcos was wounded, Eliana rushed to save him, despite the danger to herself. She snatched a knife from the hands of one of the mercenaries and fought off the attack, but at that moment she was buried under the ground. Marcos, risking his life, ran to her and helped her up. At that moment, their eyes met, and they realized that their love was stronger than any danger. Search for the echo. After retreating from the colony, Eliana and Marcos continued their search for the echo, an ancient artifact that could change the world. Their journey led them to abandoned temples, underwater, caves full of traps. During one of their expeditions, they encountered a group of fanatics who were also looking for the echo and were willing to do anything to get it. The fanatics were well armed and experienced in martial arts. Eliana and Marcos were forced to fight for their lives, using all their skills and knowledge. In one of the most tense moments, when they found themselves surrounded by fanatics, Eliana used her intelligence to deceive them, creating a trap. Marcos, taking advantage of this opportunity, dealt the decisive blow, immobilizing the leader of the fanatics. Test of trust. The most difficult test for Eliana and Marcos was the test of their trust in each other. Victor Sanchez, using information about their relationship, tried to separate them, planting false information and creating situations that could destroy their bond. He convinced Marcos that Eliana was using him to achieve her goals. He made him doubt her feelings and suspect her of betrayal. Eliana, seeing Marcos suffer, did not give up. She proved her loyalty to him by risking her life for him. She revealed her plans and showed him that she was always by his side, supporting him in everything. The ultimate trial. In the final battle with Victor Sanchez, Eliana and Marcos joined forces. They used all their skills and knowledge to defeat him and destroy his army. At the moment Victor was defeated, Eliana and Marcos stood next to each other, holding hands. They realized that their love is not just a feeling, but a force that can overcome any obstacle. Proof of love. Their trials proved to them that their love is more than just passion or attraction. It was a love based on trust, respect, and mutual support. They were willing to do anything for each other, even if it meant death. In the end, they realized that their love was the echo that brought them together, a bond that could change the world. After the final battle with Victor Sanchez, when the dust settled and the danger passed, Eliana and Marcos's relationship became something completely new. Not just love, but a deep, conscious connection forged in the fire of trials. They emerged from this experience not only as allies, but as partners, ready to build a future together based on trust and mutual respect. Lessons in trust. The first time after defeating Sanchez was dedicated to rebuilding the colony and analyzing the knowledge gained about the echo. But the most important thing was to restore trust, not only between them but also in themselves. Marcos, through the crisis, learned to trust Eliana's intuition, and she learned to understand his penchant for self-sacrifice. They realized that the true strength of their relationship was not in romance, but in the ability to accept each other with all their flaws and weaknesses. Creating a new world. The echo, as they discovered, was not just an artifact, but the key to controlling the Earth's energy. It could be used to heal the planet from environmental disasters, but also to create weapons of mass destruction. Eliana and Marcos decided to use the echo only for good, dedicating themselves to restoring peace and harmony on Earth. They created a small community of scientists and engineers who worked on technologies based on the energy of the echo. They built new cities using environmentally friendly technologies and helped people affected by natural disasters. Romance in a new context. Their romance did not fade after the trials. It became more mature and deep. They were no longer just lovers, they were partners, friends, advisors to each other. Their kisses became more conscious, their touches more meaningful. They spent evenings talking around the fire, sharing their thoughts and feelings. Together they studied ancient texts related to the Echo and sought answers to questions about the past and future of humanity. New challenges. Despite their successes, they faced new challenges. Some governments and corporations tried to capture the Echo for their own purposes. They also discovered that the Echo had not only positive but also negative sides. It could be used to control people and manipulate public consciousness. Support and mutual respect. In these difficult situations, Eliana and Marcos were always there for each other. They supported each other in difficult moments, helped solve problems and made joint decisions. They learned to appreciate each other's individuality. Eliana's passion and determination, Marcos's wisdom and calmness. They realized that their strength did not lie in being identical, but in complementing each other. Future together. Eventually, Eliana and Marcos became a symbol of hope for the world. Proof that love, trust, and mutual respect can overcome any obstacle and change the world for the better. They continued their work to restore the planet, inspiring people to do good deeds and reminding them that the future of humanity depends on their choices. Their story became a legend. The story of two people who found each other in their darkest hour and together created a new world based on love, justice, and harmony with nature. After establishing relative stability in the restored colony and their work with Echo, Eliana and Marcos faced a new, much more insidious threat. Not from outside, but from within humanity itself. Their actions attracted the attention of the Kronos Corporation, a giant transnational corporation engaged in the development and control of energy resources. Kronos, the shadow behind the masks. Kronos Corporation was more than just a company. It was a highly organized, ruthless machine seeking absolute power through control of energy. They had been tracking Eliana and Marcos for a long time, assessing the potential of Echo and planning its takeover. Their leader, the cold and calculating billionaire Victor Reynolds, the son of Victor Sanchez who managed to escape justice, saw them not as allies, but as a threat to his dominance. Operation Singularity. Reynolds launched Operation Singularity, a carefully planned campaign to discredit Eliana and Marcos, seize Echo, and control its use. They began by spreading disinformation about them in the media, accusing them of creating dangerous weapons and threatening world security. They then staged a series of sabotage and attacks on the colony, using heavily armed mercenaries and advanced technology. Inner ball. The most dangerous thing was that Reynolds managed to infiltrate Eliana and Marcos's community by bribing or intimidating members of the team. He used their knowledge and skills against them, creating an atmosphere of mistrust and paranoia. One of the best engineers, inspired by the ideas of Echo, defected to Kronos, providing them with valuable information about the colony's technologies and vulnerabilities. Using Echo against them. Kronos did not simply try to physically capture Echo. They began to use it to manipulate people's minds, spreading propaganda and creating illusions of safety. They used Echo to strengthen their military, making them virtually invulnerable. New danger level. In addition, Eliana and Marcos discovered that Echo not only had the ability to heal the planet, but also had the potential to create an artificial intelligence, a self-aware mind that could become even more dangerous than Kronos. They were faced with a moral dilemma. Use Echo to protect humanity or destroy it to prevent catastrophe. Increasing pressure. Kronos began to exert increasing pressure on Eliana and Marcos, using political influence, economic power, and military force. Surrounded by enemies on all sides, their lives became a constant struggle for survival. A new ally. In their most desperate moment, when all seemed lost, Eliana and Marcos found an unexpected ally. A group of hacker activists who exposed Kronos activities and began fighting for freedom of information. This alliance became the key to their survival and gave them hope for victory. The years passed. The battle with the Kronos Corporation became not just a fight for resources, but a war for the future of humanity. Eliana and Marcos, forged in the fire of trials, turned from young scientists into unstoppable leaders of the resistance. They learned to use Kronos' weaknesses against them, turning their technological advances into weapons against them. Thanks to activist hackers, information about Kronos' activities was exposed around the world, sparking mass protests and a political crisis. Under public pressure, governments around the world began investigating the corporation and accusing it of crimes against humanity. In a decisive battle orchestrated by Eliana and Marcos with allies from around the world, Kronos was defeated. Reynolds was arrested and his empire collapsed. Echo was safely isolated from potentially dangerous applications, and its energy was used to restore the planet and create a sustainable society. New Horizon. Eliana and Marcos' colony became a beacon of hope, a model for the harmonious coexistence of man and nature. They created an educational system based on knowledge of Echo and the principles of sustainable development. The community grew, attracting people from all over the world striving for freedom, justice, and peace. Eliana and Marcos. With her sharp mind and determination, Eliana became the head of the Echo Council, the governing body of the colony and the coordination of efforts to restore the planet. Marcos, with his wisdom and calm, became the spiritual leader of the community, inspiring people to do good deeds and reminding them of the importance of trust and mutual respect. They often spent evenings around the campfire, sharing their thoughts and memories of the past years. They knew that their lives were full of dangers and difficulties, but they also understood that they did everything they could to change the world for the better. Epilogue. Decades passed. The Earth healed from environmental disasters, and humanity learned to live in harmony with nature. Echo became a symbol of hope and a reminder that even the most difficult problems can be solved if people act together, guided by love, justice, and respect for life. In the center of Eliana and Marcos's colony, there was a small fountain in which the energy of Echo flickered. Once a simple scientific discovery, it has become a symbol of their love, their struggle, and their victory. Proof that even one person can change the world.